Hello and welcome to iGCSE Success. If you're new here, a big hello to you. I'm an English teacher and I post content here on YouTube. To prepare students for their first language Cambridge English exam. If that sounds interesting to you, you can always like, subscribe and hit the bell icon and all of that jazz. I hope you are all doing well. I know it's been quite a long time since I uploaded a proper video, but I am here today with a new video, and I want to start with a confession, and I'm just going to be completely honest with you. As an English teacher, and I've been teaching for quite a long time now, I have never ever sat a full English language paper. Yes, of course, I teach all of the skills needed for my students to succeed. I teach the skills in isolation, but I've never actually put myself in the shoes of a 16-year-old, and even more so now with the changes to the first language English paper. There's new questions. You still have 2 hours to sit the paper. So I thought today I would sit a paper. I really want to find out just how difficult it is to get all of the content, all of the questions done within the 2-hour time frame. So yes, I will be punishing myself by doing a full paper 1 2020 style, not the 3 core questions, all of the new questions as well. And of course I will be providing commentary throughout, so if you are new to the first language English course, this video is going to be particularly useful. So without further ado, let's get on with my 2-hour first language English exam. Hi guys, so let's get to it. I have 2 hours. I hopefully we'll do it under 2 hours. I am typing it. Trust me, no one wants to see my handwriting. But you know what they say about people with messy handwriting, right? So before I start, the only thing I have done, I've converted the paper, the PDF file to a Word doc, and I've removed all of the little dots so I can type my answers. And I'm going to go with the approach of doing all of the newer questions first. So I'm going to leave the writer's effect, the summary, and the extended writing response until the very end. So without further ado, let's start this exam. I've got 2 hours. I'm going to start by reading text A. And text A is titled My Week on Powdered Food. The writer explains their experience of a new powdered food product called Earth-Fu. Earth-Food. I've always found lunch annoying. It interrupts work. At the office, I resent the endless canteen queues. Working from home, I object to the daily decision making. Lunch fatigue troubled me so much that last month I decided I'd had enough. Earth-Food, would be the solution to my problem. According to the advertisements, this self-proclaimed future of food for our planet delivers everything your body needs. Wouldn't that be nice? Coming in a minimalistic white pouch, the meal replacement powder blends things like rice, peas and flaxseed. Add water, shake it up, and there's your lunch, dinner or breakfast, or all three. I ordered a week's supply, telling friends about my exciting discovery. Comments range from outraged to encouraging. This makes a lot of sense, my mum suggested as I just ate a banana. Apparently, Earth-Fu is favoured by developers, people who make websites and apps. It leaves them with more time to write code. I began fantasising about my new streamlined lifestyle, the extra work I would do, money I could save, maybe I'd lose weight. At the very least, I would feel a bit like an astronaut. Sadly, my first gulp of Earth-Fu tasted revolting. There are lumps in the mixture. I've accidentally made it with room temperature water. Chugging down the concoction, it strikes me that Earth-Fu doesn't just sound like the act of vomiting. I haven't enjoyed my liquid meal. Afterwards, I feel full, but not as if I've eaten. When lunchtime next rolls round, I'm not hungry. The thought of Earth-Fu doesn't appeal. But if you are committed to the future of food, you know lunchtime is Earth-Fu o'clock. This time I used chilled water and a hand blender to eliminate lumps. I also added mocha flavouring. It occurs to me that I'm now in fact cooking. This defeats the object of attempting to streamline the rigmarole of lunch, but at least my second Earth-Fu tastes more palatable. As the week progresses, earthing becomes a habit, but by day 7, a new joylessness has engulfed lunchtimes. I don't feel like a spaceman, I feel like an idiot. The earth food goes to the back of the kitchen cupboard, and I eat a banana instead. So is that the, short text A, that's nice, of Cambridge. So let's take a look at the questions. So read text A, we've done that already. Question 1, remember the earlier questions no doubt will be assessing your understanding of explicit ideas, so selecting and retrieving ideas clearly stated in the text. So question 1 is give 2 examples of what the advertisements say about earth food according to text, and that is in paragraph 1. Let's take another look. So let's get the highlighter tool ready. Paragraph 1. So this last sentence, this self-proclaimed future of food for our planet delivers everything your body needs. So of course it's just 1 mark, but you do need to get both ideas correct to get that 1 mark. So I'm just going to quickly, future of food, what was it again, for our planet? And the second one was delivers everything your body needs. And that's what you would need to put for your 1 mark. Now for question 1b, using your own words, explain what the text means by lunch fatigue, line 2, and meal replacement powder, line 6. Now it's important to note that you can explain the whole phrase or simply offer 2 bullet points explaining both strands, so what lunch means and what fatigue means, what meal replacement means, what powder means. I prefer to get my students to explain the whole phrase. So I guess for 2 marks for lunch fatigue, you could put something along the lines of, let's put overcome with tiredness by having to stop work to eat midday. So overcome with tiredness is of course explaining what fatigue means, and having to stop midday is of course explaining that it's lunchtime without using that word lunch. You don't want to be using the words which are quoted, and that would be enough to get my 2 marks. So again, for the second strand, I'm just going to explain the whole phrase rather than using 2 bullets. So we need to explain in our own words what a meal replacement powder is. So I would be inclined to maybe put something along the lines of a dry substance used as a substitute for solid food, and I might be inclined to put usually with added water, and I'm sure that would be enough to get your 2 marks. So for C, reread paragraph 2 beginning with coming in. Give 2 examples of reactions which show that the writer's friends and families did not think that switching to earthy was a good idea. So let's reread paragraph 2. Coming in a minimalistic white pouch, the meal replacement powder, haven't really got time to read it all. Comments ranged from outraged to encouraging. So comments ranged from outrage, there's my explicit ideas, and of course the narrator's mum suggests that they eat a banana, and there are my 2 answers. It's important to note that if it says to give 2 examples, you can just quote, that's absolutely fine. So comments range from the outraged, change that, comments range from outraged, and my mum suggested I ate a banana. Or banana, as I would say. Just check I have written them down correctly. Comments range from outrage. My mum suggested I just. This is the problem, guys, with not having it printed. There we go. There is my 2 marks, hopefully. So the next question, the next strand is D. Reread paragraphs 3 and 4. Identify 2 advantages the writer hoped switching to Erfu would bring. And the second strand of D, explain what the writer did not like about Erfu when they tried it. So I need 3 points for that and 2 points for the 2 bullets. So I'm just going to quickly skim read paragraph 3, beginning apparently Erfu. So the extra work I would do, the money I could save is definitely one, and maybe I'd lose weight. And there is my 3 points. Oh, apologies, it's asking to identify 2. So bullet point is absolutely fine, does not need to be a full sentence. So I'm simply going to put more time to work for my first point, and to lose weight, or to help lose weight, is absolutely fine. That is enough for those 2 points. Explain what the writer did not like about Erfu when they first tried it. So let's have a quick skim read. Sadly, my first gulp of Erfu tasted revolting. There's my first point. The mixture is lumpy, and I guess the fact that it doesn't just sound like the act of vomiting, it feels like it. And there is my third point. So just make sure you pay attention to the amount of marks, because if it's 3 marks, you need 3 things, 2 marks, 2 things, etc. So it tasted, let's put, it tasted revolting, it was lumpy, and it sounded and felt like vomiting. Lovely. So the last strand is reread paragraphs 5, 6 and 7 when lunchtime next rolls around, blah, 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 blah. Using your own words, which is important. Explain why the writer decides not to continue with Erfu. Gosh, 3 paragraphs to read. So remember, you have to use your own words. So it says here, the thought of Erfu doesn't appeal. If you were to put something along the lines of, Erfu doesn't appeal to the writer, you would not get your mark for that. But I'm going to highlight that and then, of course, change the word appeal. There's my first point. As the week progresses, Erfu becomes a habit, but by day 7, a new joylessness has engulfed lunchtime. So I'm going to use that as well. So clearly the writer no longer looks forward to making these shakes. And I guess the fact that even by adding extra ingredients such as mocha flavouring, it still is terribly bland. So that is going to be my last point, or my second point. And we have 3 points here. So we are good to go. So you can do, a couple of sentences. I'm sure Cambridge would not have an issue with you bullet pointing either. I'm just going to almost do a couple of sentences or a mini paragraph. So the writer feels as though there is far too much preparation when it comes to making the shakes. Also, they clearly do not look forward to it. Lastly, even adding different flavors does not take away from how bland the shakes taste. So let's quickly check that. The writer feels as though there is far too much preparation when it comes to making the shakes. Also, they clearly do not look forward to it. Lastly, even adding different flavors does not take away from how bland the shake tastes. So 3 points, I've used my own words. If you start lifting from the text, you are going to lose marks. Okay, so as mentioned, I am not going to do the summary question until the end because that's worth a lot of marks, 15 marks. I'm going to read text C and I'm going to do the new question 2s. So text C, the Clement Street soup and sourdough restaurant. Lois has moved away from the place where she grew up for a company called General Dexterity, GD, founded by a young businessman called Andre. The company designed industry-leading robot arms for factories and needs talented computer programmers to find ways to improve what their robots can do. Day one, Andrea gave a guided tour of the company's underground base, a cavernous construction, formerly a car park. Towering rows of robot arms sweeping and grasping and lifting lined the cement floor. Their plastic cladding was coloured sky blue, then contours friendly and capable with just the faintest suggestion of biceps, gentle swells sporting GD's logo, a lightning bolt. These were repetitive gestures, Andre explained, currently executed by human muscles and minds. Repetition stifled human creativity, he said. Repetition belonged to robots. I learned about the software I've been working on and saw the founder's original prototype, robot arm, a 3-jointed limb taller than me. You could call, arm, change task, say hello, and it would wave a wide, eager greeting, unlike my new workmates. Orientation week ended on Friday night, then my job began. Not the following Monday, the next morning, Saturday. I had the feeling of being sucked, floop, into a pneumatic tube. Programmers at GD were almost exclusively young, distant, cold-eyed raves in identical denim. They started early morning, working past midnight in a hurry to be done and rich. Each week, the section manager, Peter, reminded us we are on a mission to replace human labour. Work harder. Programmers often slept in the office. Some nights I'd lie there staring blankly at the ceiling and the braids of fibre ferrying data around the office. My parents were far away, locked in the frame of a video chat window. I had no friends nearby. There was a knot in my stomach that wouldn't loosen. I existed only in a state of stupor. Brain flaccid, cells gasping. I couldn't get my turbine spinning. It was Peter who'd recommended switching to the meal replacement slurry. It's what we all eat, he said. At meal times, I sat in the corner of the empty cafeteria and slurped the grey gel. It would have been slurry for dinner, as always, if I hadn't discovered stuck to my apartment's door a handwritten menu advertising a local delivery service. I just arrived home from work. My face felt brittle from stress. This wasn't unusual. I was already flagging after a single summer at my new job. I was supposed to be one of the bright new additions, the fresh-faced ones. My face wasn't fresh, my hair had gone flat and thin, my stomach hurt. I wouldn't normally have been interested, but this menu, written in a dark, confident script, intrigued me. At the top, in exuberant letters, was the restaurant's name and telephone number. The menu was compact: spicy soup, a spicy sandwich, or a combo double spicy, all of which the menu contained in its curling connectors were vegetarian. The menu charmed me. As a result, my life bent off on a different track. I called the number. A friendly voice answered. Hello, what can I make for you? I ordered the combo. Sometime later, my order arrived, delivered by a cheery young man with a heavy, hard-to-place accent. Good evening, my friend. I dug in my pocket for cash, then thought to ask, what kind of food is this? His face beamed. Real food, traditionally made. If you like it, I'll give you the recipe. Sitting on my kitchen countertop, utterly bare in those days, free from any sign of food preparation, I consumed the first combo, double spicy, of my life. The healing powers, physical and psychic, of the spicy soup made traditional noodle soup seem like dishwater. It was an elixir. The sandwich was spicy as steel, thin sliced vegetables slathered with a fluorescent red sauce, the burn buffered by thick slabs of bread artfully toasted. First my stomach unclenched, then my brain. I let loose a long sigh that transformed into a rippling burp. I laughed out loud. You can always tell the paragraphs that you are directed to for the writer's effect question, can't you? Just full of brilliant imagery. That night, instead of fitfully reviewing the day's errors, I fell asleep, soothed by spicy broth and dreams of baking that fragrant, fluffy sourdough bread. So for question 2A, there are 4 different strands and you need to identify a word or a phrase from the text which suggests the same idea as the words underlined. Now be careful with this question. Do not waste too much time on it. After all, if you are just missing one, that's absolutely fine. You do not want to be eating away at your time when you've got 3 major core questions to tackle, which are worth a lot of marks. So it really is about just sort of skimming the text really quickly and trying to find the appropriate word or phrase for each phrase underlined. So we are looking for something which suggests the same idea as a huge building. I think I remember this one, but let's just double check. So let's just scroll up. I would imagine it's quite early on. Yes, paragraph 1. So the company's underground base, a cavernous construction. A cavernous construction. Of course, that adjective cavernous referring to something incredibly large. So let's quickly type that answer in. And there's our first answer. And the second one, the lines of robots' arms seemed extremely tall. Can't remember this one. Let's just have another look. So again, this one should be fairly early on. Let's formerly a car park. Towering, that adjective towering. There we go. There is our answer. Towering, of course, very much referring to something very tall. So I'm just going to simply put towering. And the next one is Andrea believed that doing the same thing over stopped people being inventive. Now I think I remember this one. Something about human creativity being stifled. But I cannot remember. Let's have a look. Where is it? There we go. Repetition stifled human creativity. There is our next answer. Let's quickly type that answer. So stifled human creativity. Of course, stifled very much meaning stopped, and creativity very much suggesting the same idea as being inventive. And the last one is the prototype robot arm appeared to offer an enthusiastic welcome. I imagine the answer to this one will be in the following paragraph. A 3-jointed limb taller than me you could call and it would wave a wide, eager greeting. And there is our last answer. So let's just put wide, eager greeting. And of course, very much having the same or suggesting the same idea as an enthusiastic welcome. There we go. So let's quickly move on to the B strand. Using your own words, explain what the writer means by each of the words underlined. Programmers at GD were almost exclusively young, distant, cold eyes, in identical denim. They started early morning, working past midnight in a hurry to be done and rich. So almost exclusively, cold-eyed and identical. Now with this one, you can explain in a couple of words or you can use an appropriate synonym. I just like to advise my students to use a synonym. It's quicker. So something which is almost exclusive is something which refers to the majority of the workers being young. Almost exclusively, I'm going to put nearly all. Cold-eyed, if you are a cold-eyed person, you are without emotion, or I guess a good adjective to use would be dispassionate. Sorry, the formatting is going all over the place. I'm very aware of the time. Identical, of course, I guess the easiest thing would be exactly alike. Nearly all, dispassionate, exactly alike. So let's move on to the last question, the last sort of strand before we can move on to our core questions. So this is kind of like a watered down writer's effect question almost. So use one example from the text below to explain how the writer suggests Lois's feelings while at work. So make sure you get those keywords, I guess, in your topic sentence. You have to essentially pick, I guess, one powerful example or image and give 3 ideas, which I guess suggests something about how Lois is feeling towards work. Remember, pick something powerful enough that will enable you to say 3 different things. I am simply going to go with the fact that she is staring blankly at the ceiling. Try and get your quotation in your short response. So I'm simply going to let's put the phrase staring blankly conveys Lois's, would help if I spelt her name right, Lois's, let's put apathy towards her job. That's our first point, using that abstract noun, apathy, towards her job. She's lost all focus because she's staring blankly. She's lost all focus, and what else can we put? And is clearly unhappy with the monotony the job entails. So the phrase staring blankly conveys Lois's apathy towards her job. That's our first point. She's lost all focus. That's our second point, and is clearly unhappy with the monotony of the job entails. That is our third point. We've got our 3 marks. Now, because the writer's effect question comes next, I'm going to do that question now. Then I'm going to go back to the summary question, and then hopefully I've left myself enough time to do the extended writing response. So let's take a look at the writer's effect question, which of course is worth 15 marks. Reread paragraphs 10 and 16. Paragraph 10 begins, I would normally have been interested, and it's about Lois's reaction to the menu. Paragraph 16 is about Lois's reactions to her first combo. Now, I know I've said this in my previous videos, but it's really important that you pay attention to the information given to you after the ellipsis, because you want to use that information in your topic sentence or your overall effect. If you stray away from the information after the ellipsis, chances are that your analysis is not going to be focused. So use those keywords in whatever topic sentence you decide to write. Remember, 3 examples for each paragraph. Say something different for each image. Say about 2 things per image. So that's 6 comments you are making in each paragraph, and you want 2 separate paragraphs. So of course there are different ways to approach this question, but I will be approaching this question as well in exactly the same way that I have been doing for many years. So just to help me out a little bit, I'm just going to paste the paragraph so I'm not flicking between tabs all the time. So where's that paragraph? The first one is this one. I'm just going to copy that. So let's quickly get rid of that. There's the first one. And the second one, of course, is this one. It's so much easier if I just printed this, but hey ho. And which I will come back to a little bit later on. Remember, this question is worth 15 marks, so you want to do a good job of it, and look at maybe spending about 25 to 30 minutes on it. So of course the writer's intention, or what the writer is trying to achieve, is going to be about some sort of reaction Lois is having over looking at this menu. So let's just quickly read the paragraph again. I wouldn't normally have been interested, but this menu, written in a dark, confident script, intrigued me. Keyword there. At the top, in exuberant letters, was the restaurant's name and a telephone number. The menu was compact: spicy soup, a spicy sandwich, or a combo double spicy, all of which, the menu explained in its curling connectors, were vegetarian. The menu charmed me. As a result, my night, my life, bent off on a different track. I just love these texts that Cambridge choose, guys. I really do. So hopefully, with that paragraph being isolated on its own like that, you can see that Lois's reaction to this menu is one of fascination. And that last sentence there, it charms her. As a result, my life bent off on a different track. So looking at this menu, it's almost as if it's had this sort of profound effect on Lois's life. Who knows what's going to happen now in terms of her future, her career, etc. So I like to get my students to write the overall effect straight away before even annotating or highlighting. So let's put the overall effect of the language creates an image of. This sentence stem doesn't change, guys. The overall effect of the language creates an image of, and the focus is on Lois's reaction. So quite simply, we are going to put Lois's reaction to the menu. Let's put being one of fascination. Let's not use that word intrigue. Being one of fascination, almost as if it has suddenly, let's put, had a profound effect on, I keep spelling her name wrong. I do apologise, Lois's life. The overall effect of the language creates an image of Lois's reaction to the menu being one of fascination, almost as if it has suddenly had a profound effect on Lois's life. So you want to choose the images which are the most striking, and you don't want to be clutching at straws. You need to be able to say something pertinent and show Cambridge that you are aware of how language can be used for effect. So the first thing that stands out in terms of why this menu is so special is perhaps the fact that it is written in a dark, confident script, which intrigues the narrator. So I'm going to highlight that as my first image. Then I am going to look at that image of the lettering being in exuberant letters. And lastly, I think I am going to look at the fact that reading the menu or ordering the food charms her, and as a result, her life bends off into on a different track. We can certainly say something pertinent about that image. So of course, if you were doing this paper, once you've highlighted, you want to make a couple of annotations. I'm not going to annotate just because I know what I'm going to say and just because it's incredibly difficult to do so on Word. But starting with that first quote, dark, confident script, and the fact that it intrigues the narrator, well, we can look at those adjectives, dark and confident. Perhaps it seems to personify the menu. It makes it seem alluring. It makes it seem special, unique. It perhaps suggests that the food is as equally as inviting as the menu. That adjective, exuberant, brings life, brings energy, excitement to the menu. It perhaps suggests that the narrator is lured in by the aesthetics of the menu, and it's been successful in persuading her to order. And that last quote, which is probably the most striking, I mean, it's just a menu. My goodness, it must be a very, very special menu. Kind of linking, I guess, to the overall effect that this menu has had this sort of unexpected, profound effect on their life, that perhaps it's going to influence their job or change the way that they look at things, etc. And my cat has just jumped onto my lap whilst I'm doing this exam. So I'm just going to start typing this response. Apologies if there are any glaring errors, but I just want to get it finished as quickly as possible. Those who have watched my videos on the writer's effect you know that the next step is to use what I call a sort of transition phrase, just so the overall effect sort of links nicely to the next point, if that makes sense. So quite simply, we use the writer begins by describing, oh my goodness, by describing the, let's put menu as being, let's put as being written in a dark, confident script. So if you are able to embed your quotations, try and do that. If not, you can, use quotations in a way that's more comfortable for you. So the writer begins by describing the menu as being written in a dark, confident script. In fact, I'm going to change that. Let's put which immediately piques the narrator's interest. Which immediately piques the narrator's interest. Now we want to use the zoom in technique. So let's put, again, this sentence stem will not change. So the writer's use of. The writer's use of the, if you know the word class, identify the word class, that's absolutely fine. So the writer's use of the, I'm going to put the adjectives dark and let's put square brackets so it makes sense. The writer's use of the adjectives dark and confident, we could argue, I don't know if this is a bit of a stretch actually, almost seem to personify the menu itself. I'm going to put that. Almost seem to personify the menu itself. And what is the effect of that? Making it seem, let's use those adjectives I used before, which were alluring and let's put unique. Almost seem to personify the menu itself, making it seem both alluring and unique. And we want to make a link to the food as well. So we're just going to put, it could also suggest that the food featured on the menu is equally as inviting as how the menu looks. Let's go with that. There we go, that is our first quotation explored. So we're going to use our next transition phrase, which is simply the writer then goes on to describe the narrator being, what is the verb, intrigued, and let's use the other quotation. So being intrigued by the exuberant letter. Sorry if this is really annoying with me sort of talking over and the sound of the typing. I just think it's far more beneficial you see me go through the process and hearing the steps that I am also going through live rather than sort of a pre-written response. By the exuberant letters on the menu. Let's zoom into the verb intrigued. So the writer's use of the verb intrigued. The writer's use of the verb intrigued. Let's use that verb coupled with the adjective exuberant. Let's say that it creates an element of excitement, I guess. So creates an image of the menu being full of excitement and energy. And let's use a connective to develop that a little bit more. Furthermore, let's link it back to Lois. So furthermore, it could also be suggesting that the narrator has been lured in by the aesthetics, and that it has, sorry if there's any sort of glaring typos, and that it has been successful in persuading her to order food from the menu. That's a little bit verbose, but you get the idea. So let's move on to our last quotation. We're just going to use the connective lastly. So lastly, the writer goes on to describe the narrator's life being, and then we're going to embed our quotation, bent off on a different track as a result of the menu. What is that verb? Charmed. As a result of the menu, let's put charm, let's keep it present, charming her. And let's just refer to it as imagery, because I feel like I'm massively over the word count already. So the writer's image here is particularly striking. Notice also that evaluative voice that I'm trying to use. So when you start saying things like this is effective, this is striking, powerful, etc., you are also evaluating the writer's use of language. So the writer's image here is particularly striking as it suggests that the narrator's life and perhaps maybe outlook on her job has been changed due to seeing the menu. It's a weird text. It's a weird text. Is Lois going to quit her job as a high-flying computer programmer to start baking this sourdough bread? Who knows? I want to find out. So that is my first paragraph. Let's just quickly read it back. So the overall effect of the language creates an image of Lois's reaction to the menu being one of fascination, almost as if it has suddenly had a profound effect on Lois's life. The writer begins by describing the menu as being written in a dark, confident script, which immediately piques the narrator's interest. The writer's use of the adjective dark and confident almost seemed to personify the menu itself, making it seem both alluring and unique. It could also suggest that the food featured on the menu is equally as inviting as how the menu looks. The writer then goes on to describe the narrator being intrigued by the exuberant letters on the menu. The writer's use of the verb intrigued coupled with the adjective exuberant creates an image of the menu being full of excitement and energy. Furthermore, it could also be suggesting that the narrator has been lured in by the aesthetics and that it has been successful in persuading her to order food from the menu. Lastly, the writer goes on to describe the narrator's life being bent off on a different track as a result of the menu charming her. The writer's image here is particularly striking as it suggests that the narrator's life and perhaps outlook on her job has been changed due to seeing the menu. So there we have, guys, a paragraph which definitely shows an awareness of how language is used and what the writer is trying to convey to the reader. Let's move on to the next paragraph. Gosh, guys, I've totally taken this for granted now that I'm doing this exam for the first time. It is hard. There is so much content to it. I am flagging a little bit. Luckily, I have my coffee next to me. You guys, of course, don't have that luxury. Not that you should be drinking coffee at your age anyway. So we know that our next paragraph is going to have to focus on Lois's reactions to her first combo, and we can only assume that it's going to be the best thing on earth and she's going to really, really enjoy it. So I have pasted that paragraph down here just to make things a little bit easier for me. Let me just read it once more. So, sitting on my kitchen countertop, utterly bare in those days, free from any sign of food preparation, I consumed the first combo, double spicy, of my life. The healing powers, physical and psychic, of the spicy soup made traditional noodle soup seem like dishwater. It was an elixir. The sandwich was spicy as steel, thin sliced vegetables slathered with a fluorescent red sauce, the burn buffered by thick slabs of bread artfully toasted. First my stomach unclenched, then my brain. I let loose alongside that transformed into a rippling burp. I laughed out loud. So this food, I guess, has momentarily given her this sort of sense of euphoria and escapism until she has to work the next day, if she does decide to go back to work. So again, let's think of a nice concise sentence which shows an awareness of what the writer is trying to achieve. So we're going to use the same sentence starter as before. So the overall effect of the language creates an image of, and we want to try and put in some sort of adjective or usually abstract noun, and in this instance an abstract noun is probably suitable to show, I guess, Lewis's reaction to her first combo, and that of course is one of great fulfillment or enjoyment. Any suitable one will do. So the overall effect of the language creates an image of, and we're going to use the keywords from the question, Lois's reaction to her first combo being one of, let's just put, great enjoyment and one which will be remembered for a very long time. The overall effect of the language creates an image of Lois's reaction to her first combo being one of great enjoyment and one which will be remembered for a very long time. That is what the writer is trying to convey to the reader. So I'm going to pick 3 powerful images which will allow me to say something pertinent about the language and will allow me to say different things for each image because we don't want any repetition. So I'm going to look at the fact that she consumes her first combo. So that verb consumed. I am also going to look at the fact that it has these healing powers. And gosh, there's loads of images in this paragraph. I'm also going to look at the fact that she has a rippling burp towards the end of her meal. So again, I'm not going to annotate, but of course you guys should be annotating, just writing a couple of notes by the quotations which you have highlighted. So I guess that verb consumed conveys how, first of all, how quickly she eats and how enthusiastically she eats, and that she very much enjoys her first meal. Then, of course, we have the healing properties. So almost as if the food has transformed or is transforming the narrator's health. It's giving her, I guess, this new lease of life. And lastly, the fact that she lets out this rippling burp. So again, it shows that the experience has been enjoyable. It's helped her relax. It's taken away sort of any sort of tension she was feeling. She's forgotten about all the worries that have been burdening her for a long time due to work. So I need to get those ideas in a nice little paragraph. So let's get rid of that 25 marks because that is for question 3. So our first transition phrase, which of course doesn't change, the writer begins, and you want to try and analyze something from the beginning, something from the middle, and something from the end. Don't sort of analyze things all clumped together, if that makes sense. So the writer begins by describing the narrator. Let's use literary present. So if you want to keep things in present tense, just use square brackets, guys. So we just simply do this. we still need quotation marks. So the writer begins by describing the narrator consuming her first combo. And of course we are going to zoom in next to that powerful verb. So the writer's use of the verb here is, let's use that sort of evaluative voice, is particularly powerful as it conveys just how quickly, and let's put enthusiastically, the narrator finishes her first meal. Let's try and develop that a little bit more. So let's put, there's also a sense of the meal being, let's use the word, there we go, delectable, something which is incredibly delicious. There's also a sense of the meal being delectable that has, let's put, exceeded her expectations. I think that is certainly enough for the first quotation, so we're going to use our next transition phrase, which of course is, the writer then goes on to describe this is nice and easy to embed, the healing powers of the spicy soup. And of course we are going to use the zoom in technique next. I'm just going to refer to it as imagery. So the writer's image here creates a sense of the soup. Let's put transforming the narrator's life. Transforming the narrator's health, almost as if she has a new, let's put what I said before, new lease of life. We can also go further. Remember, don't worry too much if you go over the word count. You just need to make sure that you leave enough time for the other questions. This question is language analysis, so Cambridge certainly will reward well to those students who explore different layers of meaning. So I'm going to look at the connotations of the adjective. So the adjective healing, let's put the adjective healing. So think about what that connotes. Almost a sense of, I guess, spirituality, maybe. Let's put the adjective healing connotes a sense of spirituality. My cat is meowing. I'm just going to ignore him for the time being. Perhaps suggesting that the narrator just thinks she's had a really stressful time at work. She seems so detached from her peers, life, friends, family, the world. Maybe it's suggesting that she's able to reconnect with herself, that the narrator is finally able to reconnect with herself. Let's put that. And our last image, of course, is that rather humorous image of the narrator letting out a rippling burp. So we're going to use our last transition phrase, which is simply, lastly, the writer goes on to describe the narrator letting out, I was going to put proudly then, I'm not going to put that, describe the narrator letting out a rippling burp after finishing her meal. So we've embedded our quotation, and I'm just going to zoom into that image. So I'm simply going to put the writer's image here. The writer's image here shows what an enjoyable experience eating her meals. Shows what an enjoyable experience eating her meals was. Let's put it's almost as if the food has allowed, I guess it's allowed her to relax. Food has allowed the narrator to, let's put completely relax and to forget about the worries which have been, let's put burdening her for some time at work. There we go. Let's quickly read the paragraph and make sure it makes sense. The overall effect of the language creates an image of Lois's reaction to her first combo being one of great enjoyment and one which will be remembered for a very long time. The writer begins by describing the narrator consuming her first combo. The writer's use of the verb here is particularly powerful as it conveys just how quickly and enthusiastically the narrator finishes her first meal. There's also a sense of the meal being delectable and has exceeded her expectations. The writer then goes on to describe the healing powers of the spicy soup. The writer's image here creates a sense of the soup transforming the narrator's health, almost as if she has a new lease of life. The adjective healing connotes a sense of spirituality, perhaps suggesting that the narrator is finally able to reconnect with herself. Lastly, the writer goes on to describe the narrator letting out a rippling burp after finishing her meal. The writer's humorous, I didn't put that, but I would put that in hindsight. The writer's humorous image here shows what an enjoyable experience eating her meals was. It's almost as if the food has allowed the narrator to completely relax and to forget about the worries which have been burdening her for some time at work. So there you have it, guys, the writer's effect question. I've got 2 more questions to go. I'm going to do the summary question next, and then I'm going to tackle the almighty extended writing response. Okay, so now we are going to tackle the summary question. As mentioned, I'm going to scroll back up to that. So read text B, A Complete Diet in a Saved Timing Way, which we haven't read just yet. According to text B, what are the worries and concerns some people have about the new meal replacement products now available? This is the only question that stipulates that you must not write over 120 words. It's okay if you go over slightly, but you really don't want to be writing any more than 1 to 5. Again, if you go under as well, that's not going to be sufficient. Now, just a few things about this question. Of course, it's worth 15 marks. You want to try and get it done maybe in about 20 minutes. 10 marks are available for the content of your answer. That does not necessarily mean you need 10 points. I think 7, 8, as long as you develop them appropriately within the style of a summary, would be more than enough. 5 marks, of course, are for the quality of your writing. So remember, a summary should be objective, it should be formal, you should use complex sentence starters to link ideas together, you should use appropriate discourse markers, it should have a formal tone, etc. What I will say about this question is that summary writing is far more challenging than I think students perhaps think initially. It's not just a case of highlighting 10 things and just putting them together in this haphazard way. You've only got 120 words, so you need to think carefully about how you are going to organize your ideas. And I mentioned before about using complex sentence starters to help group ideas together. And once you've highlighted your ideas, you want to try and number them on your paper, because this is not a question where you necessarily approach it in this sort of chronological manner. If you do write about your points in this chronological manner, then chances are that there is going to be a lot of repetition. And of course, the other thing to mention is that you need to use your own words as far as possible. Scientific terms, geographical terms, technical terms are okay to use, but any kind of adjectives, any kind of descriptive words, you're expected to find suitable synonyms. If you lift massively from the text, you are not going to get a good mark. So the focus is on worries and concerns. Let's read text B. So text B, a complete diet in a time-saving way. The writer discusses some of the meal replacement products such as protein shakes, gels and powders that are currently available. You can divide the world into two groups of people, those who drink protein shakes for breakfast and those who don't. I am firmly in the latter. It's fair to say that I'm not the target market for the lucrative line of trendy meal replacement products, all tapping into the idea that food is old-fashioned, inconvenient and boring. So of course, if you use those kind of words in your summary, old-fashioned, inconvenient, boring, lucrative, etc., you're not going to get marks because you are lifting from the text, so you need to think of suitable synonyms. Apparently, there's now a more high-tech, whiz-bang way of delivering the same nutrients more efficiently in the form of gels and powders. Yum. Just love the sarcasm here. I'm almost tempted to try the bespoke vitamin and mineral blend described as an all-natural vegan formula until I talk to Joanne Blytheman, an investigative food writer. She scoffs at the idea. These products contain technologically altered high-tech ingredients. You are talking about industrial food chemistry where basic ingredients are being mucked around with and transformed. These are some very intense chemical sweeteners in there. There's sucralose. There's something like 200 times sweeter than sugar. There's maltodextrin. Apologies if I'm butchering these, by the way. That's another sweetener. And xylitol. That's another one. It's all just rubbish. Then there's pea protein, which sounds good, doesn't it? But what is it? Peas treated with a number of complex chemical reactions to extract some sort of beige powder. It does raise the question of why you want to eat that. On Twitter, I found a Swiss software developer who tells me he's been eating nothing else for weeks. I've just moved to the city and it's an effort to find time to cook each evening. I have a very healthy lifestyle and like eating healthily. I read about it and thought I'd give it a go. My running partner, Catherine, is exactly the type of person who drinks protein shakes for breakfast. At the end of our run, she pulls out her lunch from her rucksack. It's okay, she says. I'm not sure. We may want to maximise the health benefits of food, but the research simply isn't there yet. And what about the emotional, cultural and social well-being aspects of food? We are not robots. Food is more than just fuel. Appetite is such a fundamental drive. Food is part of what we do every day to make our lives a bit nicer. If you've had a bad day, it's just that little nice thing you can do for yourself. And these products just don't get that at all. So what we need to try and do now is highlight any relevant information which links to the worries and concerns that people have about meal replacement products. So let's try and do this as quickly as possible. So from this first paragraph, the writer describes them as being a lucrative line of trendy meal replacement products. So you've got two ideas you can write about there. One is that manufacturers are concerned about making as much money as possible. And also that perhaps these are just a bit of a gimmick. They are a bit of a fad without any, I guess, longevity to them. So in this second paragraph, we can certainly extract quite a bit of information. So we've got that the basic ingredients are being mucked around with and transformed. These products contain technologically altered high-tech ingredients. So I guess the ingredients are very much overly processed. There's a lot of rubbish in them, for want of a better word. There's a lot of sugar, so intense chemical sweeteners. Then there's this pea protein, which is often used, which of course the writer goes on to suggest that it's terribly misleading because again it's mixed with loads of rubbish. And then we have, towards the end of this paragraph, The end result is some sort of beige powder. So it's terribly unappealing to look at and arguably to taste as well. And then let's get some information later on where the writer suggests that food is more than just fueling your body. So the writer says food is part of what we do every day to make our lives a little bit nicer. If you've had a bad day, a protein shake is not going to make your woes go away, essentially. You can also could explore this idea about the emotional, cultural and social well-being aspects of food. So we've got our ideas, and now we need to try and transform all of these ideas into a concise summary. Let's have a look at how to do that. The first thing to note is that you want a concise topic sentence which includes the keywords from the question, which of course are worries and concerns. So I'm simply going to put, there are a number of worries and concerns when it comes to the sheer number of meal replacement products now available. I'm just gonna, because that's really annoying me how that's in bold. So the first two ideas that I want to explore is that these meal replacement products are a bit of a gimmick, and that manufacturers only care about, I guess, extorting as much money as possible from their consumers. Remember, we mustn't use that adjective lucrative. Okay, so I'm going to start with that connective firstly. So let's put, firstly, it seems that these, let's not use food replacements. Let's put these food substitutes are nothing more than a trendy gimmick. And let's link our second idea, more than a trendy gimmick, with the aim of extorting as much money from their consumers as possible. So we've got two ideas already. So I'm going to try and link some of these ideas together now. So the fact that many of them are, I guess, unpalatable, they are equally as unappealing to the eye. You know, you're just left with this beige powder. However, they are still, I guess, presented as being a healthy alternative. So let's put, secondly, despite many of them being unpalatable and equally as unappealing to the eye. So notice how we're not using that word beige, we are putting unappealing to the eye. And let's put our comma there, unappealing to the eye. Many are still, let's put marketed and presented as being healthy alternatives. There we go. So of course, the fact that they are being marketed as sort of a healthy alternative sort of links to the pea protein. I also want to mention next how the products are, I guess, misleading, and they've got an enormous amount of overly processed chemicals and sugars and sweeteners in. So let's put, are still marketed as being healthy alternatives. Let's put, however, such products are often misleading as they contain, we don't need to put all of the sort of scientific jargon and all the names in, as they contain overly processed ingredients. Let's list a few. Excessive amounts of sugar, and let's put, I guess, yeah, let's put artificial flavors and artificial flavorings. No. Overly processed ingredients, excessive amounts of sugar, and artificial flavorings. There we go. And the last couple of points are raised towards the end about food being more than just simply fueling your body. So let's go with that. So I'm going to put, lastly, food should be seen as more than just something to, let's not use the verb fuel, let's put something to energize your body. How many words? Okay, 104, we're doing good. I've got one more point to put. It can be, let's put, it can be instrumental in, I guess the writer suggests that food can influence your mood, in influencing your mood. Let's put happiness and overall well-being. Let's put arguably a shake cannot achieve this. Let me just, damn American spelling. How many words? 122. I'm okay with that. 122. Let's just quickly read it. There are a number of worries and concerns when it comes to the sheer number of meal replacement products now available. So I really focus topic sentence, then starting off with my first connective. Firstly, it seems that these food substitutes are nothing more than a trendy gimmick with the aim of extorting as much money from their consumers as possible. So I've linked two ideas together. Secondly, despite many of them being unpalatable and equally as unappealing to the eye, many are still marketed and presented as being healthy alternatives. So again, linking sort of three ideas together there. However, such products are often misleading as they contain overly processed ingredients, excessive amounts of sugar, and artificial flavorings. So again, three ideas linked together. Lastly, food should be seen as more than just something to energize your body. It can be instrumental in influencing your mood, happiness, and overall well-being. Arguably, a shake cannot achieve this. And there we have a summary, looking at a range of ideas, using my own words where appropriate. So now let's take a look at the last question, the mammoth question, that is the extended writing response. I've lost it already. Reread text C, the Clement Street Soup and Sourdough Restaurant in the insert, and then answer question 3. Imagine you are Andrea. You have noticed the changes in Lois, which have made you reconsider how your business operates and decide to make some improvements. A few weeks later, you give a speech to other business owners. Tricky. I felt that actually the questions on this paper have been okay. The writer's effect question was a little bit strange, I have to admit. This question I think is going to be quite tricky. In your speech, you should explain the nature of your business, what you hope to achieve, and how successful it has been so far. So important thing to note there is that there are several different strands there. You have to explain the nature of your business, what you hope to achieve, and how successful it has been so far. So it's kind of looking at explicit ideas and then developing appropriately. The concerns you have about your staff, the improvements you have made at GD as a result of speaking with Lois. Write the words of your speech, base your speech on what you have read, but be careful to use your own words. And you've got a very helpful sentence starter, my company, general dexterity. Write about 250 to 350 words. This question's worth 25 marks. It's difficult. I mean, 40 minutes, 45 minutes, I think, is a realistic amount of time to spend on this question. 15 marks are available for the content of your answer, so roughly 5 ideas per each bullet point, and 10 marks for the quality of your writing. First thing you need to do is establish the type, audience and purpose. Of course, you are writing a speech. It needs to sound authentic. The audience are to other business owners, so it needs to have that sort of level of formality, I guess. And I guess the purpose is to inform other business owners about the changes you are making, and perhaps they will want to implement some of your changes. Remember, you need to assume the role of Andrea. So you need to think about things such as vocabulary, sentence structure, any kind of stylistic choices that are going to help you create a sense of character. So 3 different strands. In the opening, we need to establish a sense of character. We need to show Cambridge that we know what a speech looks like. It needs to sound like a speech. We need to explain clearly the nature of the business, what he hopes to achieve, and how successful it has been so far. This is going to be difficult. So the information at the top in italics, it says the company designs industry-leading robot arms for factories. So we are definitely going to put that in our opening. So that's our first point. So I guess our second point will be the fact that they are developing these robotic arms, which seem very high tech. And although at the moment they just seem to carry out very sort of repetitive, simple gestures or movements, we can explore, or we can mention that we hope to develop the movements to become more sort of complex, and I guess get them to a point where the robots can replace much of the workforce. Of course, the company is clearly growing as well, from the fact that their premises seem to be incredibly large. So think about the implications there, that this company is perhaps able to contribute economically, to offer more jobs to budding, talented computer programmers. And it even says here, repetition stifled human creativity. So perhaps in terms of what we hope to achieve, maybe to improve staff morale, to make it a much happier working environment, which will no doubt make the team incredibly happy. I think here's enough ideas, as long as we develop each one appropriately, and I will show you how to do that. So with any directed writing task, I like to spend a sentence or two just establishing a sense of purpose and character. Of course, we won't get any reading marks for that, but we may well get writing marks. So I'm going to use that sentence starter, of course, and it's bold again. So I'm going to put my company, general dexterity. Let's put has certainly come a long way in terms of its growth. We've got the lightning bolt, so let's put of its growth. Let's put innovation, and we'll get writing marks there, I think, and success. Let's put, whilst I am pleased with the progress my company has made so far, we still have a long journey ahead of us. So what I'm doing here is just showing Cambridge that I know the features of speech writing. I am establishing a suitable tone for my speech. And then I'm just going to introduce Andrea to the other business owner. So I'm going to put, my name is Andrea and I built my company. I built my company from the, let's put, ground up. It does say, we would certainly get marks there because it mentioned that he is the founder, which is incredibly impressive. Let's put, we pride ourselves on our commitment to using state-of-the-art. So this is where I'm really going to get my reading marks. State-of-the-art robotic arms, let's put, to help improve the manufacturing process for all. Let's put that. I am getting really tired now, so I can really, I can empathize now. I can say that I've done a full first language English paper. Let's mention, what did it say in the text about formerly a car park? So of course the space is absolutely huge. So let's put, our premises are large and we hope to continue growing at a rapid rate, enabling us to provide jobs. Let's just put what I put before, for future budding computer programmers. We will certainly get our reading marks there. So let's just have a look at the paper again. So let's explicitly mention how they are working on developing this robotic arm. So I'm going to put user connective presently. So presently we're still working on the design of our, let's use the word, innovative robotic arm. And at the moment, it is able to carry out very sort of simple actions. So let's put, it is able to carry out simple functions such as waving. So we want to mention next that I guess we hope that eventually this sort of innovative robotic hand will be able to perform more sort of complex movements, so it will free up the workforce. So let's put, eventually we hope to be at a stage where our robotic, oh my goodness, I cannot type today, guys, where our robotic hands are able to free up much of our workforce from the more, let's put, repetitive tasks that need carrying out. And then we want to sort of infer or develop, so what are the implications in terms of, or how will that benefit staff? Hopefully, well, let's put, this will undoubtedly improve staff morale. If staff are doing all of these really sort of repetitive actions every single day, the monotony is just going to get to them. It's just going to make them feel quite down. So it's going to improve staff morale and make the workplace a much more inviting place for all of my team. There we go. So we have a range of ideas and they are all developed. So let's just quickly read that. My company, General Dexterity, has certainly come a long way in terms of its growth, innovation and success. Whilst I am pleased with the progress my company has made so far, we still have a long journey ahead of us. My name is Andrea and I built my company from the ground up. We pride ourselves on our commitment to using state-of-the-art robotic arms to help improve the manufacturing process for all. Our premises are large and we hope to continue growing at a rapid rate, enabling us to provide jobs for future budding computer programmers. Presently, we are still working on the design of our innovative robotic arm. It is able to carry out simple functions such as waving. Eventually, we hope to be at a stage where our robotic arms are able to free up much of our workforce from the more repetitive tasks that need carrying out. This will undoubtedly improve staff morale and make the workplace a much more inviting place for all of my team. So now we are ready to move on to our second bullet point, which is about the concerns you have had about your staff. So we need to find roughly 5 ideas for that bullet point. So skimming this really quickly, one thing that springs to my mind is that the company GD almost exclusively hires young people. And in that same paragraph, it says, in a hurry to be done and rich. So there's certainly this sense that many of the young professionals want this financial stability as quickly as possible. So perhaps the implication there is that they are not as invested as Andrea would like them to be. We could also mention that they are working past midnight. So in terms of, I guess, developing that idea, we have to remember that all of these people have made quite a brave decision to move away from what they are familiar with, move away from their friends, their family. They're going to be lonely, perhaps they feel alienated, perhaps their mental health is not the best. And these are all things that we can certainly put in our response. We could also mention perhaps something about the section manager Peter, who simply reminds everyone that they are on a mission to replace human labour and that everyone just simply needs to suck it up and work harder. So perhaps having a private conversation with Peter just to, I guess, get him to be a bit more empathetic, to unify the team a little bit more is something we could potentially explore. We could also mention that programmers often sleep at their desks. So could we perhaps set up a space for these young professionals, for the workforce, so they have a place to rest where they are comfortable, perhaps more regular breaks as well. And maybe this idea that they are simply not eating well enough to fuel their body, to give them the energy to carry out their job effectively. They are essentially eating meal replacement, shakes of some sort, slurry, I have no idea what that is. That is certainly something which we could explore, and we could explore the implications that it may have on their health. So let's make a start. So again, I like to, establish that tone before going straight into the sort of reading content. So I'm going to let's put the growth of my company has really been a group effort. Now link it to the bullet point. However, I have a few concerns I would like to share with you all. Let's put, I have to admit, most of my workforce, so let's start by mentioning that they are young. So consists of young, so this is where we get our reading marks from, young professionals. And then let's put arguably, many want, let's put financial stability as quickly as possible. So if we go back to the mark scheme where I've highlighted, where have I highlighted it? In a hurry to be done and rich. So we're not even using that adjective rich. We are taking those ideas, we are putting them into our own words, and we are developing appropriately. And then I'm just going to develop this a little bit more. So I'm going to put, let's not forget that most of my team have made quite the brave, no, let's use audacious, decision to move away from what is familiar to them. Now, let's go back on to working past midnight. So we're not going to put that. Let's put we all know. So let's use that inclusive pronoun we all know, and we'll certainly get some marks for our style. We all know the hours can be long and it can be terribly hard work. I do get concerned that many often, let's put, often feel alienated or lonely throughout the working day. Let's put not to mention the stress that often can arise due to working in such, let's put, such a fast-paced environment. There we go. So again, I am developing ideas appropriately. Question 3 is not about making things up. It's about taking the explicit ideas and making suitable inferences, I guess. Let's also mention the sort of lack of comradeship. No one speaks to each other, which again is only going to exacerbate their loneliness, I guess. So I'm going to put, I am also getting incredibly concerned about the general lack of comradeship. Let's develop it a little bit more. There can be very little dialogue, let's put, between colleagues, and let's put greetings seldom happen, and that is mentioned in the text. Let's move on to our sort of last point. I mean, the meal replacement thing is certainly not good for their health. So let's just use that connective lastly. Lastly, many of my staff do not seem to be, let's put, fueling themselves. And then let's use the word adequate. Oh my goodness, I cannot spell or type today. Themselves adequately. I am aware that many opt for, let's put, meal substitutes, such as slurry. If anyone knows what slurry is, please tell me. Is it completely fictitious? Is it a brand? Never heard of it. Let's develop it a little bit more. I do worry that this could, think about the implications on their health. So this could result in a, let's put, myriad of unwanted health issues. Does that seem okay? Right, let's quickly read it. The growth of my company has really been a group effort. However, I have a few concerns I would like to share with you all. I have to admit, most of my workforce consists of young professionals. Arguably, many want financial stability as quickly as possible. Let's not forget that most of my team have made quite the audacious decision to move away from what is familiar to them. We all know the hours can be long and it can be terribly hard work. I do get concerned that many often feel alienated or lonely throughout the working day, not to mention the stress that can often arise due to working in such a fast-paced environment. I am also getting incredibly concerned about the general lack of comradeship. There can be very little dialogue between colleagues and greetings seldom happen. Lastly, many of my staff do not seem to be fueling themselves adequately. I'm aware that many opt for meal substitutes such as slurry. I do worry that this could result in a myriad of unwanted health issues. Awesome. Guys, one more paragraph to go, and I think I've done it within the 2-hour time frame. In all fairness, if I have gone slightly over 2 hours, I have been adding commentary throughout, so I apologise. The end is at sight. So what is the last bullet point? The last bullet point is the improvements you have made at GD as a result of speaking to Lois. Important thing to note with bullet point 3, which invariably students find quite difficult because you can't always just highlight 5 things. You have to consider the whole text and you need to make suitable inferences based on what you have read. So it's not a case, again, of just making things up. It's considering everything you've read, taking the information that you can find, and then obviously inferring in terms of the improvements that are going to make the workforce happier. With that being said, in order to answer bullet point 3, I don't really need to look back at the text because I know I'm going to be writing about the food. I know I'm going to be writing about more sort of breaks throughout the day. I know I'm going to be writing about perhaps having a session or two with Peter. Also, I might want to explore, let me just double check the text. I'm pretty sure towards, paragraph 1. I mean, it's a car park. It's described as a cavernous construction. So we can only assume that it's quite dark and uninviting. So maybe changing the aesthetics of the workplace may also help. So let's just get straight to it. Gosh, I've forgotten what the bullet point is already. The improvements you have made at GD as a result. Okay, so he's made improvements. Let's start with all that being said, I have started to make a number of improvements and will continue doing so in order for things to be, let's put, greatly improved here at I'm just going to put GD. That's what they do on the paper. Certainly one thing that was high on my agenda was, let's put, was the food. Let's put, it's important that food not only gives my staff the, let's put, energy needed to carry out their work effectively, but also, let's put, but also that it is an enjoyable experience because it will bring people together and people will start talking to each other. An enjoyable experience, let's put, one which I hope will encourage them to sit, talk and eat together. There's our first point, and developed well. let's put, I also have put plans in place to, let's put, gosh, my brain. I also have put plans in place to put a stop to programmers sleeping at their desks. Okay, so another thing to know, if you were to stop here and not develop, you're not going to get all of your reading marks. So you take information from the text and you develop appropriately. That is really important. So how could we develop this? Let's put, my team deserve a comfortable place where they can rest as and when is needed. Let's put periodic breaks. Periodic breaks throughout the day will also help. Let's put, gosh, my brain is like mush right now, guys. Periodic breaks throughout the day would also help my staff let's put revitalize. That will do. Let's mention, gosh, what do they say about Peter? Doesn't seem like the best manager, does he? You have to work harder. Okay, so let's put, I have also been spending time with Peter, let's put with our section manager, Peter. Let's develop, I am in the process of ensuring that he is equipped with the tools necessary to, I'll just put what I said before. Really what this team needs is someone to encourage them and to unify them. So to help unify the team more and to manage the day-to-day processes in a far more effective way. I know this is probably massively over the word count, but I think I have enough time to go over the word count. Fingers crossed. Right, one more point, I think. Lastly, I want to mention the workplace. What can I say? Lastly, I am continuing to improve the overall quality of the workspace. I want my premises to be inviting, not some, what is it described as again? Cavernous something, a cavernous construction. So it's, incredibly, I guess, claustrophobic. I want my premises to be inviting, let's put with far more natural lighting than there is presently. And let's just, what can I say to finish it off? I believe this will create a far happier and energetic workforce. Let's end it. Thank you for your time, and I hope today's brief talk has given you some food for thought. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I just ended with that stupid idiom. Right, let's quickly read this. My brain is... What brain? With all that being said, I have started to make a number of improvements and will continue doing so in order for things to be greatly improved here at GD. Certainly one thing that was high on my agenda was the food. It's important that food not only gives my staff the energy needed to carry out their work effectively, but also that it is an enjoyable experience, one which I hope will encourage them to sit, talk and eat together. Awesome. I also have put plans in place to put a stop to programmers sleeping at their desks. My team deserve a comfortable place where they can rest as and when it's needed. Periodic breaks throughout the day will also help my staff revitalise. I've also been spending time with our section manager, Peter. I'm in the process of ensuring that he's equipped with the tools necessary to help unify the team more and to manage the day-to-day processes in a far more effective way. Lastly, I am continuing to improve the overall quality of the workspace. I want my premises to be inviting with far more natural lighting than there is presently. I believe this will create a far happier and energetic workforce. Thank you for your time, and I hope today's brief talk has given you some food for thought. And there you have it, guys. Question 3 finished. I almost don't know what to say. I am just about surviving, relatively unscathed, went through copious amounts of coffee. I feel for you guys. There's a lot of content to get through in the 2 hours, and even I struggled, and I've been teaching for 8 or 9 years or something. I really think to put yourself in the best position, you need to do lots of practice under strict time conditions and make sure you know the correct approaches, particularly to those core questions which carry a lot of marks. So it really is practice makes perfect. If you want to see me go through this stress, this trauma again, give me some feedback in the comments below, and I will see you again very soon. Until next time, bye bye.